All right. So today we're diving into something
Okay.
that I think a lot of people out there
Mm-hmm.
probably can relate to. And it's this idea that,
Yeah.
you have this really great idea for a piece of software.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that would
Right.
revolutionize your industry.
Sure.
Or something that would, help out a lot of people. But
Yeah.
there's just one problem. You're not a tech expert.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you approach that? How do you go about building this software if you don't have those coding skills?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going to explore today. We're going to
Okay.
draw on some insights from Andrew Tablet,
Interesting.
who actually specializes in helping non-tech founders
Okay.
build MVPs,
Okay.
so minimum viable products.
Yeah, minimum viable product. That's a good point to define.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're going to be talking about.
Exactly.
Right. It's like the very first version of a product,
Mhm.
just to test the market.
Exactly, just to get something out there.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that really struck me
Okay.
from Andrew's approach is that
Yeah.
he really emphasizes focus.
Focus. Okay.
And he's not talking about,
Mm-hmm.
like drinking lots of coffee and staying up all night.
Right.
He's talking about focus in terms of
Okay.
really zeroing in on
Okay.
one specific problem that you're trying to solve,
Got it.
right? It's like,
Okay.
don't try to boil the ocean.
Yeah.
Start with a cup of tea.
I like that analogy. That's good.
And I think that's something that's
Yeah.
really easy to lose sight of.
Oh, yeah. Especially when you're excited about an idea.
Oh,
You have all of these things you want to do, and
right. You want to
you want to solve all the
you
problems.
want to be everything to everyone.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I think, where
Yeah.
a lot of people get tripped up. It's like, you
Yeah.
got to start small. You got to
Right.
get those early wins,
Early.
to build that momentum. Yeah.
And he also talks about,
Yeah.
the power of deep domain knowledge.
Okay, domain knowledge.
Right. So this is the idea that, if you really understand a particular problem
Okay.
or a particular industry,
Yeah.
that can actually be more valuable than
More valuable than technical skills.
having the technical skills to code.
Interesting.
Right. Because you're the one who can really identify.
So you're saying, like, it's better to be an expert in the problem than an expert in the solution.
Exactly. Because
Interesting.
you're the one who can identify that problem.
Right.
And figure out, what is the best way to solve it.
Right. And it makes sense because if you think about it,
Yeah.
who is better equipped to solve a problem?
Right.
Someone who, like you were saying,
Right.
really understands it from the inside.
Exactly.
Or someone who just knows how to code,
Right.
but doesn't really understand the nuances
Right.
of the problem.
And he gives this analogy or this example.
Okay, I like examples.
Yeah, where he talks about,
Mm-hmm.
like, imagine you're trying to build a software for, I don't know,
Yeah.
like a niche market, like beekeepers.
Beekeepers. Okay, right.
And you're not a beekeeper yourself. You're just a coder.
Right.
You might be able to build something,
You can build an app.
but it's not going to be as good as
Right.
if you were actually a beekeeper.
Unless you really talk to beekeepers
Right.
and understand their problem.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's not just about understanding the problem broadly,
Okay.
but also understanding the specific needs.
Okay, so like even within beekeeping,
Yeah.
there's different niches.
Right.
Right.
And this is where I think things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because Andrew actually advises against
Against what?
rushing into building the software
Wait, really?
right away.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's like,
I would think you'd want to build the thing.
right, like you have this idea
Get it out there, yeah.
and you want to get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But he's
And
saying,
he's saying, hold on.
hold on.
Okay.
Because you want to make sure
I'm
that
sure that one.
you're actually solving a real problem.
Oh, okay, so validate the problem first.
Exactly.
Before you build the solution.
And he even suggests,
Okay, how do you do that?
well, he says,
Yeah.
can you solve this problem, or at least parts of it,
Okay.
using existing tools?
Existing tools.
Right. So could you
Like what?
use a spreadsheet?
Oh,
Could
yeah.
you use like a simple landing page?
Interesting.
Could you even use a competitor's product
To kind of test it out, yeah.
just to kind of see
See if people are interested.
if people are interested, if
Yeah.
there's actually a need for this?
Okay, so before you even write a line of code,
Exactly.
you're saying you can validate the problem. That's a really good point.
And I think this is where, this idea of software as automation comes in.
Automation.
Right. So it's like,
Mm.
if you think about what software does,
Yeah, what does software do?
it essentially automates a process.
Right, okay.
So if you could define that process first,
Define the process, got it.
then you can start to think about
Then automate it.
how to automate it.
Okay, so like a real world example, let's say you're running a small e-commerce business
Okay.
and you're doing order fulfillment
Right.
manually.
Right.
So you get an order, you
Yeah.
got to go to the warehouse, you got to pick the items,
Right. You got to package it up.
package it up, you got to print the label,
You got to ship it out.
got to go to the post office, you do all that.
Yeah.
So if you want to build software to
Yeah.
automate that,
Yeah.
first you got to break down that whole process
Exactly.
to each step.
Yeah.
And then we can see, okay, which parts of this
Right.
can we actually automate?
And this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier
Okay.
with the, the nail it then scale it.
Nail it, then scale it. Yeah.
right? So it's like,
So what does that mean?
well, it's this idea that,
Okay.
you don't want to
Yeah.
try to build something that's going to be perfect for everyone right
For
away.
everyone right away. Yeah.
You want to start small.
Start small. Okay.
You want to focus on a specific group of users.
Right.
You want to really nail the solution for them.
Solve their problem completely.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then once you've done that,
Then you can think about scaling it up.
exactly.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially non-technical founders,
Yeah.
they get really caught up in this idea of like,
Oh,
it
boy.
needs to be able to handle like
1,000,000 users.
1,000,000 users. you
Yeah,
know?
way.
It needs to be scalable.
Yeah.
It needs to be,
Big difference.
future-proof, all this stuff.
Right.
And they end up,
Never launching.
never actually getting anything out there.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that happen so many times.
Because they're so afraid of,
Yeah.
scaling too early
Scaling too early.
that they end up not scaling at all.
Yeah. It's like that fear paralyzes you.
Exactly.
You end up not doing anything.
And he also talks about the
Ah.
importance of having a technical advisor,
A technical advice.
even if you're not a developer yourself.
Okay. So even if you don't know how to code,
Right.
you should have someone who does.
And this is someone who can,
Okay. What would they do?
well, they can
Uh,
help you assess like the technical feasibility of your idea.
okay.
They can review your plans. They can,
So basically, like,
yeah,
just make sure that you're not
Right.
going down the wrong path.
exactly. And they can even connect you with,
Right.
the right resources.
Like developers and designers and
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
the other thing that he talks about is marketing.
Marketing. Okay.
Right. Because,
Right, because you could have the best software in the world,
exactly.
but if nobody knows about it,
it's not going to do any good.
it's worthless.
Right.
So how does he suggest approaching marketing?
Well, he suggests budgeting
Okay.
for marketing in smaller iterative chunks.
So like don't spend all your money at once.
Right.
Okay.
So test different channels.
Right.
See what worked.
Measure the results
And
and,
then-
adjust your approach.
Exactly. And then
Uh-huh.
finally, he talks about validation and pivoting.
Validation and pivoting. Okay.
So this is the idea that,
So what does that mean in plain English?
well, it means that, you have to be willing to change direction if your initial approach
Right.
isn't working.
Don't be afraid to change course.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're getting feedback from your users.
Yeah.
You're looking at the data.
And if it's not working,
And if it's not working,
gotta pivot.
you got to be willing to pivot.
Okay. I like that.
And so the key takeaway here is that,
Okay.
even if you're not a technical expert,
Yeah.
you can absolutely bring your software vision to life.
You can build software.
You can build software.
Even if you're not a coder.
It's about focusing on your domain
Your
expertise,
domain expertise.
validating your ideas,
Right.
and building only when
When you absolutely need to.
absolutely necessary.
Okay.
So if you're a non-tech founder
Yeah.
and you're looking to build an MVP,
hmm
definitely check out Andrew Tabbitt and his company, MVP Now Studio.
MVP Now Studio.
He can definitely help you with this process.
That's good to know.
And so I think what's really interesting about all of this
Yeah.
is that, it really challenges this traditional idea of
The traditional idea of what
like build it and they will come,
build it and they will come, right?
right? So it's not just about
It's not enough to just build it.
building
You
something.
got to validate it. You got to market
You got to validate it. You got to market it. You got to
Yeah, you got to solve a real problem.
solve a real
For
problem
real people.
for real people.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm curious for all the listeners out there,
Mhm.
what's one process in your field
Yeah.
that you're currently doing manually
Yeah.
that you could maybe streamline with a simple software solution?
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That's something to think about.
That's where the innovation lies.
That's where the magic happens.
All right. Thanks for
All
listening.
right, thanks everyone.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.